What if the one thing standing between you and the life you want isn't something you need to learn, but something you've forgotten? Sit with that for a moment. Not because it's comfortable, but because it might explain more than you realize. Maybe you've been working harder than ever, chasing bigger goals, filling every empty moment with noise, hoping that the next achievement, the next video, the next opportunity will finally make everything feel clear. Yet somehow, the harder you run, the more distant that feeling becomes. It's as if you're searching for a door that has been in front of you the entire time, hidden in plain sight. You are not alone in feeling this. Every day begins with urgency and ends with exhaustion. Your attention is pulled in 100 different directions before you've even had a chance to hear your own thoughts. The world keeps telling you to do more, consume more, become more. But almost no one stops to ask a far more important question. What if the missing piece isn't more? What if it's less? There was a time when people lived with far fewer possessions, fewer comforts, and fewer distractions. Yet many of them carried a kind of inner steadiness that feels almost impossible today. They faced uncertainty, loss, hardship, and change, but they weren't constantly searching for another distraction to escape themselves. Somewhere along the way, humanity traded that quiet strength for endless stimulation. We gained speed, but lost direction. We gained convenience, but misplaced clarity. We became surrounded by information while slowly drifting away from wisdom. Think about your own life. When was the last time you sat in complete silence without reaching for your phone? When did you last allow your mind to wander without filling every empty space with another notification, another song, another screen, another voice? If that question makes you uncomfortable, you're already beginning to see the truth. Silence has become unfamiliar. Stillness feels strange. Waiting feels unbearable. We have trained ourselves to believe that every second must be occupied, every pause must be filled, every moment must produce something. But the greatest parts of who you are cannot grow in constant noise. They need space, they need time, they need your full attention. The strange part is that this change happened so slowly that almost nobody noticed it. We didn't wake up one morning and decide to disconnect from ourselves. It happened one small habit at a time. One distraction became another. One shortcut replaced another. One moment of reflection disappeared, then another, until eventually the silence that once strengthened people became something many now avoid at all costs. That is why so many people feel stuck without knowing why. They blame their circumstances. They blame their past. They blame their lack of motivation. But beneath all those explanations lies something much deeper. A forgotten habit. One so simple that most people overlook it. One so powerful that it quietly shaped generations long before modern life buried it beneath endless activity. The most dangerous losses are not the ones you notice immediately. They are the ones that become normal. When everyone around you lives the same way, it's easy to believe that constant distraction is simply how life is meant to be. But deep down, there is a part of you that knows something isn't right. It's the quiet voice that appears late at night when everything finally slows down. The voice that whispers, there has to be more than this endless cycle of rushing, consuming, and repeating the same days. That voice has never disappeared. It has only been drowned out. And maybe that's why you're here. Maybe some part of you has been searching for something you couldn't quite name. Not another trick, not another shortcut, not another promise that fades after a few days. Something older, something deeper, something that doesn't depend on the world changing before your life can change. Because the greatest truths rarely disappear. They simply wait for someone willing to remember them. That quiet voice keeps returning because it remembers a version of you that your daily habits have almost erased. It remembers what it feels like to think without interruption, to choose instead of react, to live with intention instead of impulse. The tragedy is not that this part of you is gone. The tragedy is that it has been ignored for so long that you've started believing the noise is your true nature. Look closely at the rhythm of your days. The moment you wake up, something demands your attention. Before your own thoughts have a chance to form, someone else's ideas are already filling your mind. Every scroll, every alert, every headline, every endless stream of content competes for the most valuable thing you possess. Not your money, not your time, your attention. And wherever your attention goes, your life quietly follows. Most people never notice this. They think the small choices don't matter. They tell themselves they'll slow down tomorrow. They'll reflect when life becomes less busy. They'll reconnect with themselves after they reach the next milestone. But tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes another year. Suddenly, they wake up wondering why they feel disconnected from the person they once hoped to become. The world has become incredibly skilled at keeping you occupied. Occupied people rarely ask difficult questions. They rarely challenge their habits. They rarely stop long enough to realize they've been walking in circles. Activity creates the comforting illusion of progress, even when nothing meaningful is changing. That is why being busy can become one of the most dangerous forms of comfort. Comfort doesn't always look peaceful. Sometimes it looks like constant movement. It looks like always having something to do so you never have to face what you've been avoiding. It looks like filling every empty moment because silence feels unfamiliar. But what if that discomfort you've been escaping is actually the doorway you've been searching for? Every great change begins the moment you stop running from yourself. The mind you've been trying to fix with more information may not need more information at all. It may simply need space. Space to breathe. Space to notice. Space to separate what truly matters from everything that merely feels urgent. Without that space, every decision becomes reactive. Every emotion becomes louder. Every setback feels permanent because you never pause long enough to see it clearly. This is how distraction slowly reshapes a life. Not through one dramatic event, but through thousands of tiny moments where your attention is borrowed instead of chosen. A few minutes here, a few moments there. They seem harmless. Yet those moments become habits. Habits become character. Character becomes destiny. No one intends to drift away from themselves. It happens quietly. It happens while waiting in line, while eating without noticing the food, while reaching for a screen every time boredom appears, while convincing yourself that constant stimulation is normal. Little by little, your inner world grows quieter, not because it has nothing to say, but because you've stopped listening. The hardest truth is that distraction feels good in the beginning. It gives quick relief. It offers easy escape. It asks nothing from you except your attention. But every escape has a hidden cost. The more often you avoid your own thoughts, the less familiar your own mind becomes. Eventually, you begin searching outside yourself for answers that have been waiting inside you all along. This forgotten habit was never about escaping the world. It was about returning to yourself before the world decided who you should be. Imagine how different your life would feel if your thoughts were no longer controlled by every passing distraction. Imagine making decisions from clarity instead of pressure. Imagine ending each day knowing you actually lived it instead of simply reacting to it. That possibility is not reserved for extraordinary people. It belongs to anyone willing to reclaim what has always been theirs. The greatest theft of the modern world isn't that it takes your time. It's that it convinces you to surrender your attention without ever realizing what you've lost. And once you see that truth, it becomes impossible to pretend that the endless noise is harmless. Something inside you begins to wake up, refusing to settle for a life lived on autopilot. That awakening is the moment everything begins to change. Not because your circumstances suddenly become easier, but because you stop allowing your circumstances to decide who you are. The forgotten habit was never about escaping responsibility. It was about creating enough inner silence to meet life with a clear mind instead of a scattered one. Long before the world rewarded constant connection, people understood the value of stepping away. They knew that a mind left alone for a while did not become empty, it became honest. When there was no audience to impress and no endless stream of opinions to follow, they were forced to meet themselves. That meeting was uncomfortable, but it was also where real strength was born. Most people fear silence because silence refuses to lie. It will show you the dreams you've been postponing. It will remind you of promises you've made to yourself and quietly broken. It will expose the excuses that once sounded convincing but now feel hollow. At first, that truth can feel heavy. You may even want to run back to the familiar noise. But if you stay with it, something remarkable begins to happen. The same silence that once felt uncomfortable slowly becomes peaceful. You begin noticing thoughts that were buried beneath constant distraction. You recognize which fears belong to you and which were planted by the expectations of others. You stop measuring your worth against strangers. You stop chasing every trend that promises happiness while delivering only another temporary distraction. Little by little, your mind becomes a place you no longer want to escape. That is the habit our ancestors understood. They didn't believe wisdom arrived through endless consumption. They believed it emerged through reflection. They trusted that the deepest answers could not be forced. They appeared when the mind became still enough to recognize them. Think about the greatest decisions of your life. The moments that truly changed your direction were probably not made while rushing, scrolling, or reacting. They came after a pause, a quiet walk, a sleepless night of honest reflection, a moment when everything around you became still enough for something inside you to speak. Those moments were not accidents. They were reminders. Your mind already knows how to find clarity. It simply hasn't been given the chance. This forgotten habit is not complicated. It does not require perfect conditions or endless free time. It begins the moment you choose to stop feeding every distraction that demands your attention. It begins when you allow a few moments of silence without immediately reaching for something to fill them. Those small choices seem insignificant, but they create a completely different life over time. Every day you practice stillness, you reclaim a piece of yourself that distraction tried to steal. Every day you sit with your own thoughts, your courage grows a little stronger. Every day you choose awareness over impulse, your future quietly changes. The transformation is rarely dramatic. There are no fireworks, no instant breakthroughs. Instead, your thinking becomes clearer, your emotions become steadier, your decisions become wiser. Problems that once felt overwhelming begin to shrink because you finally see them without panic clouding your judgment. People around you may not even notice the change at first, but you will. You will notice that you no longer react to every opinion. You will notice that your peace depends less on what happens around you and more on what you protect within yourself. You will notice that confidence begins growing from something deeper than praise. It grows from knowing you are no longer abandoning yourself every time the world becomes loud. That is a power no one can give you, and no one can take away. The greatest victories are often invisible long before they become visible. A stronger mind is built in quiet moments. A calmer heart is shaped through repeated choices. A meaningful life is created by habits so small that most people ignore them until the results become impossible to deny. The ancient habit was never lost because it stopped working. It was forgotten because the modern world became too noisy to remember its value. Yet it has been waiting all along, patient and unchanged, ready for the moment someone decides that endless distraction is too small a price to pay for a life that was meant to be lived fully awake. Being fully awake does not mean living without fear. It means refusing to let fear make every decision for you. It means recognizing that your attention is the foundation of your future. And every moment you reclaim it, you take back a part of your life that was slipping away unnoticed. The world will always offer another distraction, another reason to postpone the life you truly want, another excuse to stay comfortable. It will tell you that you can begin tomorrow, that one more day of drifting won't matter, that your habits are too small to shape your destiny. But your life is not changed by dramatic moments. It is shaped by the quiet choices no one else sees. Every morning you become someone. Every evening you reinforce who that person is. That process never stops. Whether you realize it or not, you are practicing something every single day. You are either practicing awareness or distraction, discipline or impulse, presence or escape. There is no neutral ground because every repeated action leaves a mark on your character. The person you become next year is already being built by the habits you repeat today. This is why the forgotten habit matters so much. It interrupts the cycle before the cycle defines you. It creates a space where automatic reactions lose their power and intentional choices begin to grow. In that space, something extraordinary happens. You stop asking what the world expects from you and start asking what your deepest values require of you. That single shift changes everything. You become harder to manipulate because your attention is no longer for sale. You become harder to discourage because your purpose no longer depends on constant approval. You become harder to distract because you finally understand what deserves your focus. People often search for confidence in achievements, possessions, or recognition. Yet lasting confidence comes from something much quieter. It comes from proving to yourself day after day that you can remain present even when your mind wants to escape. It comes from honoring your own values when no one is watching. It comes from choosing the difficult path of awareness instead of the easy path of avoidance. That kind of confidence cannot be borrowed. It must be built. Imagine looking back years from now. Imagine seeing two versions of your life. One where every distraction slowly pulled you away from your potential until you forgot what truly mattered. Another where one simple habit changed the direction of everything. Not because it made life effortless, but because it made you stronger than the chaos surrounding you. The distance between those lives is smaller than you think. It is measured in moments. Moments when you pause before reacting. Moments when you choose reflection over constant consumption. Moments when you protect your attention as if it were the most valuable thing you own, because it is. Every meaningful transformation begins long before anyone else notices it. Like a seed growing beneath the soil, the greatest changes happen in silence. People only see the results after months or years, but they never witness the quiet decisions that made those results inevitable. Do not underestimate those quiet decisions. History has always remembered people who mastered themselves before trying to master the world. They understood a truth that remains unchanged despite every technological advance. A distracted mind can achieve many things, but it rarely experiences lasting peace. A focused mind not only accomplishes more, it experiences life more deeply. That is the difference. One life is spent reacting, the other is spent creating. One is carried by every passing current, the other chooses its direction with intention. The ancient habit was never about withdrawing from life. It was about entering life completely awake, with clear eyes and an undivided mind. It was about becoming the kind of person who cannot be easily shaken because their strength comes from within, rather than from changing circumstances. Right now, this very moment, nothing extraordinary has happened on the outside. The world is still moving at the same relentless pace. The noise is still waiting. The distractions are still reaching for your attention. But something far more important can happen inside you. A decision so quiet that no one else will hear it, yet so powerful that your future will be shaped by it for years to come. That is how forgotten habits become lasting legacies, one deliberate choice at a time. That quiet decision is where a new life begins. No applause, no dramatic announcement, no perfect moment. Just a single choice to stop living on autopilot and start living with intention. Most people wait for inspiration before they change, but the truth is far more powerful. Action creates inspiration. The smallest act of awareness can awaken a strength you forgot you possessed. You don't need to escape to a distant mountain. You don't need to abandon your responsibilities. You don't need a different life to begin living differently. You only need the courage to protect the moments that everyone else throws away. The moments of silence. The moments of reflection. The moments when you choose to meet yourself instead of escaping into another distraction. Those moments will test you. Your mind will beg for the familiar noise. It will tell you that checking one more notification won't matter, that filling one more quiet space is harmless, that you'll return to yourself later. But every time you resist that impulse, you are doing far more than avoiding a distraction. You are teaching your mind that it no longer controls you. You are proving that your attention belongs to you again. That is real freedom. Freedom is not having endless choices. Freedom is having the strength to choose what truly matters. When you reclaim your attention, something unexpected happens. Time begins to feel different. Conversations become deeper. Simple moments become richer. Problems that once consumed your energy lose their grip because you are no longer feeding them with endless worry. You stop living at the mercy of every emotion because you finally create space between what you feel and how you respond. That space changes everything. It is where patience is born. It is where wisdom grows. It is where character is forged. The ancient habit was never about becoming someone else. It was about remembering who you were before the world convinced you that your value depended on constant productivity, endless comparison, or the approval of strangers. Beneath all the pressure, beneath all the expectations, beneath all the noise, there is still a part of you that knows how to live with clarity. It has been waiting patiently, never demanding attention, only hoping that one day you would become quiet enough to hear it again, but that day does not have to remain a dream. It can be today. Not because everything around you has changed, but because something within you has finally shifted. Imagine waking up each morning with a mind that serves your purpose instead of your impulses. Imagine ending each day knowing you spent your attention on things that actually mattered. Imagine looking into the future without the constant feeling that life is slipping through your fingers. That future is not built through one extraordinary decision. It is built through ordinary moments honored with extraordinary consistency. This is how people quietly transform their lives. Not through luck, not through shortcuts, not through waiting, through remembering. Remembering that peace is practiced. Remembering that clarity is protected. Remembering that strength is built in silence long before it is revealed in action. The world will continue moving faster. New distractions will appear. More voices will compete for your attention. More promises will tempt you with easy comfort. But none of them can decide who you become unless you hand them that power. Every day, you choose where your attention rests. Every day, you choose which habits shape your identity. Every day, you choose whether to drift with the current or stand firmly in the direction of the life you truly want. The ancient habit was never buried beyond recovery. It has been alive inside every quiet pause you ignored, every honest thought you interrupted, every moment you almost listened to yourself before the noise returned. It has waited through every season of your life without judgment, knowing that the moment you remembered it, everything could begin again. So protect your attention as if it were your greatest treasure, because it is. Protect your silence as if it were sacred, because it is. Protect your mind from a world that profits from keeping it scattered. And never forget that the greatest transformation rarely begins with changing your circumstances. It begins with changing what you repeatedly give your awareness to. The habit was ancient. The opportunity is present. The choice has always been yours. The choice has always been yours, even on the days when it felt like it wasn't. That is the truth most people never fully accept. They wait for the world to become quieter before they protect their peace. They wait for life to slow down before they become present. They wait for certainty before they begin. But life does not reward those who wait forever. It rewards those who remember what truly matters while the noise is still screaming one day. You will look back on this season of your life. The only question is what you will see. Will you see years spent reacting to everything except your own purpose? Or will you see the moment you finally stopped letting the world decide where your attention belonged? That decision will become one of the invisible turning points of your life, the kind that feels ordinary at first, but changes everything over time. Never underestimate the quiet power of repeated choices. Mountains are not moved in a single moment. They are shaped by constant pressure. Rivers carve through stone not because they are stronger, but because they never stop flowing. Your mind changes the same way. Every time you choose awareness over distraction, patience over impulse, intention over habit, you are reshaping yourself in ways that cannot be measured today, but will become undeniable tomorrow. There will be days when you feel nothing, days when silence feels restless, days when your old habits call you back with familiar comfort. Those are the moments that matter most. Anyone can stay committed when change feels exciting. Real transformation begins when excitement disappears and your values take its place. That is when the forgotten habit becomes more than an idea. It becomes part of who you are. You begin trusting yourself again. Not because you are perfect, but because you keep showing up. Not because every day is easy, but because you refuse to abandon what you know is right. That trust is priceless. Once you build it, your relationship with yourself changes forever. You stop making promises you never intend to keep. You stop searching for motivation every morning because your actions are no longer driven by emotion alone. They are guided by something deeper. A quiet commitment that grows stronger every time you honor it. This is how ordinary people become extraordinary. Not through gifts that others never had. Not through perfect circumstances, but through the courage to practice what most people forget. The ancient habit was never meant to make you less connected to the world. It was meant to help you become more connected to what is real. To notice beauty that distraction hides. To appreciate conversations that rushing destroys. To experience moments instead of simply recording them. To build a life that feels meaningful from the inside instead of impressive from the outside. That is a life no algorithm can create for you. No trend can replace it. No possession can buy it. It is earned, one conscious moment at a time. When you guard your attention, you guard your future. When you protect your inner world, your outer world begins to reflect that strength. Opportunities become clearer because your vision is no longer clouded. Relationships become deeper because you are truly present. Challenges become teachers instead of enemies because you meet them with a steady mind instead of a restless one. The world may never notice the habit you have reclaimed. It may never applaud the moments you spend in silence. It may never understand why you choose presence over endless distraction. That does not matter. The strongest roots always grow where no one is watching. Years from now, people may admire your calmness, your discipline, your wisdom, your ability to remain steady when everything around you is uncertain. They will see the results, but they will never fully see the countless quiet moments that created them. They will not know that your greatest victories began the instant you remembered an ancient truth that had been waiting for you all along. Your attention is your life in its purest form. Wherever you place it, your days will follow. Wherever your days go, your future is built. Protect it fiercely, guard it daily. Return to yourself again and again, no matter how many times the world tries to pull you away. Because the ancient habit we forgot was never simply about silence. It was about remembering that the most powerful force you will ever shape is the person you become through the choices you make when no one else is looking.